Is this budget deck actually good? Hello and welcome to the table, and today I'm back with another Flesh and Blood deck tech video, budget deck tech video this time around. And for Boltyn, Sir Boltyn, Breaker of Dawn, my favorite deck in all of Flesh and Blood, and minus a Fine Spring Tunic, which I will say how to incorporate it into the main deck if you want it in the main deck, so stick around for that. But this deck is really budget friendly and actually maybe powerful, thanks to a couple of new cards from High Seas. So let's dive right into things, starting off with the hero himself, Sir Boltyn, Breaker of Dawn. A light warrior hero, 4 intellect, 40 health, and an ability, couple of effects that say if you've charged this turn, you may just say, hey, all your attacks get +1 power while being defended by an attack action card. So coming in for 3, and opponent blocks with an attack action, all of a sudden it's coming in for 4. Pretty good for you, especially when you have things that you want to hit. And add an attack reaction speed ability that you can activate as many times per turn as you want, by the way. You can banish a card from his soul, give target attack with power greater than space go again, and then just say, hey, I get to go wider. Screw you. So, Boltyn, pretty decent hero. Not the most, kind of innocuous, but his effects, matter more than you would think. And it especially matters when you get into the equipment suite and the weapon. The weapon being Raydn Dusks Bane. Free to attack with sword as a once per turn action. You can come in for 0 damage, a whole 0 damage, and then if you charge this turn, it gets +3 power. So basically, what Raydn is in the deck for is to make your below rate stuff more on rate. This deck very commonly can come in for 7 damage, using up 3 cards from your hand, which if you don't know is not a good thing. But with Raydn, it turns that 3-card 7 into a 3-card 10. And in order for that to happen, because a lot of cards in your deck don't have go again, Boltyn, you need to have stuff with power greater than your base, and Boltyn therefore can give that stuff go again now, which is really good for you and can make Raydn, easier to hit and attack with. But you do want this thing to hit sometimes because you got a pretty powerful arm piece. And while this can kind of be a thing that you want to kind of sink in the middle of things, because when it attacks, if you've charged this turn, it does have power greater than its base, so you can make the chain wider if you need to through Raydn, but you do want to end with this thing a lot of the time because of Iron Song Versus, a 2-block arm piece with temper that has a once per turn action. You can spend a resource, say your next sword attack this turn gets a non-hit of creating a courage token, and this effect has go again. So Iron Song Versus basically is in the deck to allow for this Boltyn attack reaction speed activation to be a little bit easier to do through the Raydn. Because a courage is just a little token that lies around that says when you play an attack action card or attack with a weapon, it gets +1 power for the attack, which gives it power greater than its base, allowing you to use Boltyn's effect. And, a lot of time you're going to be pitching a yellow to play something like a Take Flight charging card. And then you want to spend that resource to then also activate the Iron Song Versus. Note, activate the Iron Song Versus foe first, then play whatever cards after, because you want the Iron Song Versus to, get all the effects. You want that to linger around throughout the entirety of the turn, and you don't want to close any effects. Like if you played a Nimblism, you don't want to close any of the effects of that stuff. So activate the Iron Song Versus first. It is very important. But Iron Song Versus is a really good way to kind of allow Raydn, that seems like, oh, it's just damage, actually matter and have an on-hit presented to your opponent that they generally don't want to have happen. But then there's also Helm of Halo's Grace, a 2-block blade break headpiece that says when this defends, you may charge a card to your hero's soul, and if a yellow card is charged this way, you draw a card. It's filtering, but better, essentially. If you get too many yellows in your hand, you can block with this, charge that yellow card, getting some value off of that, because cards in your soul is generally going to be a very good thing for you. Then you get to draw a card, so you don't go down any cards in hand, and you are getting value off of the card that you just charged because it's going into your soul, and there are plenty of cards in this deck that get value off of that. And speaking of which, there is a Soul Bond Resolve, a 2-block temper chess piece that says when this defends, you may charge a card to your hero's soul, and more importantly, the first time you would be dealt damage each turn, if you charge this turn, prevent 1 of that damage. While Helm of Halo's Grace charges during your opponent's turn, this, when you would be dealt damage during, let's say, your opponent's turn, you get to prevent 1 of that damage. Soul Bond Resolve, pretty good piece of equipment. It's not as good without something like a Saving Grace in the main board, but it's still really powerful. And it's just a really solid card. But then lastly, there's Snapdragon Scalers, which I don't know why this wasn't in the deck for the longest time, but it is a leg piece that blocks for nothing, but attack reaction speed ability. You can pop it and then just say, hey, target attack action with a cost of 1 or less gets Go Again. That's fair, right? In this deck, Go Again matters a lot because a lot of your stuff doesn't have Go Again or doesn't have free Go Again, if you will. So Snapdragon Scalers is kind of in the deck to allow that to happen, to give the things Go Again that you need to get have Go Again. There's only one card in the entire deck that can't get Go Again off of this card, so it sucks there, but outside of that, Snapdragon Scalers is an absolutely busted, insane card in this deck. But then getting to the main board, I've divided it into 3 categories. The first category, not the one that I'm going to be talking about, is just all the cards that charge. Get stuff into your soul. I need to get value off of Boltyn. Or the next category of cards, your charge profiteers. All the things get value off of the stuff being in your soul. Think of something like a Celestial Cataclysm, all those kind of cards. And then lastly, the last category, the one I'm going to be talking about first, the one that takes the most value off of the Snapdragon Scalers, the Nimby package. And the Nimby package is a pretty powerful new package out of High Seas. And what is it? This guy, essentially. It's built around this guy. A 0-cost, 3 attack, 2 block generic attack action without Go Again. Seems bad, but when it attacks, you may search your deck for a Nimblism, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. This seems a lot like a card from Flesh and Blood's past, maybe a 1-cost version of this with Go Again that got banned in CC. So this is a more friendly version that's not as broken, because that one was basically a 1-cost 6 with Go Again, essentially. Because Nimblism, for the red version, is a 0-cost generic non-attack action with Go Again that blocks for 2, and says your next attack action with the cost of 1 or less, you play this turn, gets +3 power. And then I have 3 copies of the yellow version in the deck as well, which just gives a +2 power buff, but it pitches for 2. But basically, Nimby here, in combination with something like a Snapdragon Scalers, just says, hey, let's come in for 3 with Go Again, then play a Nimblism, give a 3 buff to the next thing that I come in with, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm sending a 0-cost 6 with Go Again, in a sense. That's fair. Nimby is a pretty powerful card in this deck, especially in combination with a couple of new cards that care about Nimblism, as mainly being in your graveyard. Those cards being Jack Be Nimble and Jack Be Quick. They do very similar effects. Jack Be Nimble, I have 2 copies of. Jack Be Quick, I have 1 copy of. Jack Be Nimble is a 0-cost, 3 attack, 3 block generic attack action that says when it attacks, you may banish a Nimblism from your graveyard, and if you do, this gets +1 power and Go Again. 0 for 4 Go Again that blocks for 3. That's pretty good. And when it hits a hero, you steal an item they control until the end of the action phase. That part doesn't matter as much because, you know, there aren't a lot of decks that have items. I mean, there are the High Seas decks. There are the Puffins and the Mechanologists of the world. But mainly, this card is in the deck to be a 0 for 4 Go Again. That doesn't require you to do any shenaniganry with your soul, which is actually more relevant than you would think. So yeah, Jack Be Nimble does more work than it looks like it would do. And Jack Be Quick is a one-off, does the exact same thing, except when it hits, you may untap an ally the opposing hero controls, then steal it until the end of the action phase. This one can be more powerful when you're playing against a deck like Gravy, but realistically, I think if you want the on-hit and you need it to matter, then the Jack Be Quick is a little bit worse than the Jack Be Nimble, because Jack Be Nimble is just, like, it works for more decks, like, it works against more decks. But yeah, Jack Be Nimble, these cards are good. Jack Be Nimble and Jack Be Quick, they do more work than it looks like they do. Because 0 for 4s would Go Again, you know, they're good. They're just good. But then, getting into the next category, all the cards that charge. Everything that charges, gets all the things into your soul, and maybe gets you some value off the cards I'll talk about next. But the first couple of cards are Beaming Bravado, 0-cost, 3 attack, 3 block Light Warrior attack action that says, as an additional cost to play this, you may charge your hero's soul, and if a yellow card is charged this way, it gets +1 power. I mean, it gives itself power greater than its base, which essentially, thanks to Boltyn, gives itself go again. So it's kind of a 0 for 4 go again, but it does force you to spend 3 cards to do, or 2 cards to do, which is not great. But then you use, you know, Raydn, and all of a sudden it's a 2-card 7. So then it seems a little bit better. But yeah, Beaming Bravado, it's a good red. It's a good 3 of red. I also have 1 copy of the yellow version, which is the same thing, except it gives a +2, or it comes in for 2 instead of 3. It's just not as good, but if you need it, you need it. But yeah, Beaming Bravado, it's a solid card. Then there's Bolt of Courage, which is an absolutely insane card. A 0 cost, 3 attack, 3 block that has an additional cost to play. You may charge your hero's soul. And when this, if you've charged his turn, when it hits, you get to draw a card. So it's kind of like a Snatch. It's a little bit worse than Snatch, but to be fair, it does block for 3. I don't think Snatch blocks for 3. I'm pretty sure it blocks for 2. Yeah, it blocks for 2. And this could potentially give itself go again, because, you know, if the opponent blocks with an attack action, you know, this comes in for a break point, and then they might have to block with more than they would usually want to block with. So, Bolt of Courage, decent card. I also have 2 yellow copies of it, which is the same thing, but it comes in for 2. It's a lot worse because if it does get the buff from Boltyn's own effect, then it comes in for 3, not for 4, which is way worse. But still a powerful card. Still want to have 2 copies of it in there when you need it. I also have Engulfing Light, which is a pretty powerful card too. It also, it's the same thing as Bolt of Courage, but it's on hit, puts it into the hero's soul instead of drawing you a card, which in a sense is drawing you a card, but not as like powerful as the Bolt of Courage. It's still fine because, you know, getting more cards into your soul is a good thing. It's just not drawing you cards. And I don't have any copies of it in the yellow suite, but it's still a powerful card. But then I have Express Lightning, a 0 for 4, 3 block that adds an additional cost to play. You can just charge a card to your hero's soul. It's just a 0 for 4. Maybe gets go again somehow. I mean, you know, there is a Snapdragon Scalar's worst case scenario, but Express Lightning, if you need it, you need it. And it does more work than you would think, because if you get later on into the game, you just need 0 for 4s. You just need breakpoints to close in on your opponent. This is one of the few cards that can consistently do that, because it's just always going to be a 0 for 4. It doesn't force you to have 2 cards in your hand in order to turn it into a 0 for 4, so that part of it does make it more powerful than you would think. But yeah, Express Lightning, good card. Then I got Light the Way, which I don't have any yellows of either. It's just a 0 for 3, 3 block. As an additional cost, you may charge a card to your soul, and when it hits, if a yellow card was charged this way, it gets go again. So it can give itself go again in a sense, but it's still not great. It still requires a little bit more work than you would think. So yeah. But then there's also Take Flight, a 1 cost 4 attack 3 block that as an additional cost to play, you may charge your hero's soul, and if you charge this turn, it gets go again. So that part of it is pretty powerful, because, you know, it can give itself guaranteed go again instead of Light the Way giving itself potential go again. So Take Flight, even though it's a 1 cost 4 attack, the fact they can get go again makes it more powerful than you would think. Plus, if you've charged it all this turn to get to go again, whereas with Light the Way, you have to charge to its own effect in order to give itself the potential to get go again. So yeah, that's why Light the Way, there aren't any yellows of it. That's why with Take Flight, there are 3 yellows of it. But yeah. Then lastly, there's one more, well, 2 more technically, but they kind of go together. There's a couple of more cards, and that is Beckoning Light and Spirit of War. Even though there are some cards that have on hits in the deck, like the Bolt of Courage, like the Engulfing Light, like the Light the Way, there aren't a lot of cards in your deck that get like good, powerful on hits that really matter. So Beckoning Light and Spirit of War are in the deck to really allow you to say, all right, opponent, unless you want me to get a lot of value, I'm going to present you these on hits, and I'm going to try to strip cards from your hand. And Spirit of War and Beckoning Light both do that really well. Spirit of War is a 0 cost, it's a 2 of in the deck. It's a 0 cost 3 attack 3 block that has an additional cost to play. You may charge your hero's soul. And if a yellow card was charged this way, whenever an attack action hits this combat chain, you get to create a Courage token. So that's pretty powerful for you, because it's just like, over and over and over again, just giving stuff +1 power buffs, which, because a lot of things in this deck are 0 for 3s, buffing them up to 0 for 4s makes them way more powerful, especially when they have an on-hit of making your stuff bigger. So Spirit of War is just kind of like a good way to just kind of snowball. If you have like a 5-card hand, 4-card hand in an arsenal, just to really snowball and just say, all right, I'm coming in with this, and pop the Snapdragon Scalers to give it go again. And then now I just have this looming effect that's just like, okay, you want to block, you want to block, you want to block, you want to block, and then just kind of just say to the opponent, give me a lot of value, like let me deal a ton of damage to you and get a lot of value out of all of my cards, or block with a ton of cards from your hand and lose pressure on me that you could potentially put on me. So Spirit of War, it's decent 2 of, but it's still pretty solid. But then there's a 1 of Beckoning Light. This card is mainly in the deck to get back some cards you really want to like get back repeatedly over and over and over again, like maybe the Spirit of Wars, sorry, maybe some Valiant Thrusts, maybe some other cards, like, I don't know, a Nimby. There are a lot of really good, like, attack actions that you want to be get value out of over and over and over again. Because some of the attack actions in this deck are really bad, some of them are really good. The ones that are really good, you want to play as many of as possible. So that's why Beckoning Light is a 1 of, because it's basically the same thing as a Spirit of War, but its effect that says, if you've charged a yellow card this way, now, whenever an attack action hits this combat chain, instead of creating you a Courage token, you may put an attack action card from your graveyard on top of your deck, which is really powerful for you, because basically, you can almost set up your next hand with Beckoning Light if things hit enough. Which is really good for the opponent and, pretty powerful. So yeah, Beckoning Light, pretty solid card when you need it to be. Like, it's good later on in the game. Otherwise, it's just like, it's just a decent-ish card that can, threaten the opponent. It may be good in combination with another card that I'll talk about later, Lumina Ascension. But then the next package and the final package is all the cards that profit off of cards being charged. Which the first card that I'm talking about is Via the Vanguard. This card kind of goes with both categories, both the things that charge and get value off of stuff being charged, so I'm putting it here. I'm going to be talking about it first. Via the Vanguard is a 1 cost 3 attack 3 block Boltyn specialization that adds an additional cost to play this. You may charge your hero soul any number of times, which is really good for you because, more soul, more good for you. And, generally you're wanting to do it once, maybe twice if you can afford it. But whenever your attack, or all your attacks this combat chain, get +1 power for each light card charged this way, which is really powerful for you because, stuff being bigger is really good. Stuff being greater than the base, in this deck especially, is really good. So Via the Vanguard both gets cards into your soul and, is a way to get value off of cards being charged because of its own effects, but Via the Vanguard, it's just kind of like the bridge between the two worlds, but it's still a very solid card. But then the rest of the deck, or the rest of the cards that get value off of stuff being in the soul and stuff being put into the soul, are first, Bannerets of Courage, a card with Soul Flare, and Banneret of Gallantry, which also has Soul Flare. They're both 1 cost 4 attack 3 blocks with a pitch for 2 that has Soul Flare. When they're charged to the hero's soul, for Banneret of Courage, you get to create a Courage token. And for Banneret of Gallantry, you get to create a Quicken token, which is the same thing as a Courage token, but instead of giving a +1 power buff, it gives Go Again, which is almost better. So that's pretty good for you. But there are a couple of other cards, just a few, that also get value off of stuff being in the soul. One of which being a Boltyn Blade, a 4 cost 7 attack 3 block 2 pitch light warrior attack action that costs 2 less for each time you've charged this turn. So it can be a 0 cost 7 attack, which from what I've been told is a pretty powerful effect. There's also Valiant Thrust, which is very similar. It's a 1 cost 4 attack 3 block, red this time around. But if you've charged this turn, it gets +3 powered. So it's kind of like a Boltyn Blade, except it's a little bit easier to pull off, but it does always cost a resource, whereas with Boltyn Blade, it's a little bit harder to cost nothing with. But it always comes in for 7. So, it's still solid. They're both solid in their own way. But then there's Celestial Cataclysm, the best of these 3 couple of cards that come in for 7 potentially. Like big old chunks of damage for way cheaper than they should be. But Celestial Cataclysm heroes a 0 cost 7 attack 3 block Go Again 2 pitch card that adds an additional cost to play. You have to banish 3 cards from the hero's soul. So you have to have so many cards in the soul in order to pull this card off. But if you do a 0 for 7 with Go Again, That is very, very powerful. Not gonna lie. So yeah, pretty good for you. But then there is the Lumina Ascension bunch of cards. The first card that I want to be talking about here being the Beacon of Victory. This card gets tons of value off of you charging because Stuff in Your Soul, like I said, is very powerful, both for Boltyn's ability and for a couple other cards. If you have a ton of cards in your soul, you're like, what am I going to do? I'm never going to use all these cards to Boltyn's effect. Don't worry, you got Beacon of Victory. 2 pitch, 3 block, 0 cost Light Warrior attack reaction that as an initial cost play, you have to banish X cards from your hero's soul, and X cannot be 0. So, if you have like 7 cards in your soul, and you want to have 1 left lying around or whatever, you can banish 6 cards from your soul to then get 6, like have X equal to 6, which is pretty powerful because it says target attack gets plus X power. All of a sudden, 0 cost way to give plus 6 power at attack reaction speed is pretty good. And depending on how late in the game you are, can just end the game. So yeah, Beacon of Victory for that sense alone is like, whoa. But in addition, if you've charged this turn, you may search your deck. You do search your deck for an action card with a cost of X or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. So you can search for literally any card in your deck because everything in this deck is an action. And it all costs very little. So yeah, generally all you have to do is banish 1 card and you just get to tutor for anything in your deck you want. The only card that you can't being Boltyn Blade, and also the only card that you can't use Snapdragon Scalers for. But yeah, Boltyn Blade, sure, it's fine that you can't do it, but still, Beacon of Victory, very good. But if you've charged, you just get to get pretty much anything you want. And there are a couple of cards you want to be getting off of this especially. Sure, you can get the Nimby, sure, you can get the Nimbleisms to give your stuff power greater than its base, but there are some really powerful cards that you want to be getting too. More powerful. That being Spirit of Irina and Lumina Ascension. Spirit of Irina being a 2-pitch, 0-cost Light Warrior action item, legendary item, that says if it would be put into your soul, you instead put it into the arena, which is powerful because, you know, you get to charge it, that being a yellow, which matters for a couple of different cards, but then you just immediately, boom, get to put it into the arena, and say anytime you can play an Lumina Ascension, you can play it as though it were an instant. Which is powerful, but what's Lumina Ascension? The best card in the deck. Because Lumina Ascension is a 2-pitch, 0-cost, 3-block, Light Warrior, non-attack action will go again, Boltyn specialization, that says, until the end of your turn, weapons you control get +1 power. Good start, and a non-hit of revealing the top card of your deck. If it's a light card, you put it into your hero's soul and gain a life. Otherwise, you put it on the bottom of your deck. And if you charge this turn, you may attack an additional time with each weapon you control. So because of the fact that it has go again, if you use Spirit of Irina, you have Spirit of Irina lying around, this card basically gains you an action point. So you have 1 action point lying around, and then you play a Lumina Ascension at instant speed. All of a sudden you go up to 2 action points. You can attack with your weapons an additional time, then you don't have to do any Boltyn shenaniganry in order to attack with the Raydn 2 times instead of just 1. So that's very good for you. And by the way, these stack. So yeah, that's pretty good too. Now, granted, you do have to be, you know, revealing light cards in order to put them into your soul and gaining life, which is really powerful. But if they're generic cards, which there are a lot more of than in this deck than there used to be, then doesn't, you know, just gain you life and go into your soul. It goes on the bottom of your deck. So that is kind of bridging into my next topic. Why does the main deck have 63 cards in it? Why are you running 63 cards in your main deck instead of 60? Because inconsistency. Basically, Lumina Ascension and the 12, I believe, 12 generics that are in the deck. Basically allowing it to be harder for you to reveal light card or non-light cards. And also, there are just basically no cards in this deck that I don't want in it. And the only card that I could even think of being like something like an Express Lightning or a Light the Way, but both of those cards are really good in their own way. So there isn't really like any cards in this deck that I wouldn't want to trim or cut. So there's just like everything has a purpose for being in the deck, basically. So 63 cards in the main deck, sure. It's not necessarily what some of you might be wanting, but there's a reason for it, and that's just because of the Lumina Ascension, also because everything in this deck is very good, very powerful in their own right, throughout the course of the game. But then, I got the inventory, which got a couple of cards in here. I got a Null Rune Boots to give you some Arcane Barrier. I got a Halo of Illumination that just, has Spell Void too. So that's pretty good for you too. Because, if you'd be dealt Arcane damage, you can blow it up and then prevent 2 of the Arcane damage. It has its own effect to draw you a card, but it's basically a worse Helm of Halo's Grace, so, yeah. But then there is also Warpath of Wind and Grace, where you need to be more defensive. You can switch out the Snapdragon Scholars and put this back in. A 2-block Blade Break. It's the same thing as the Helm of Halo's Grace, except this card says if you charge a yellow card this way, you get to create a Quicken token. So that's pretty good for you. But then lastly, I got all the defensive cards. I got the Sink Below, 0 for 4 D-React. That's just very powerful, very good. I got the Soul Shields, 2-cost, 6-block D-Reacts that puts itself into the soul when the combat chain closes. Pretty good, and it pitches for 2. I got the Saving Grace, the 2-pitch, 0-cost Light Warrior D-React that as an initial cost play, you may charge a Hero Soul. And if you charge this turn, not to its own effect, this turn, so something like the Helm of Halo's Grace, Warpath of Wind and Grace, or the Soul Bond Resolve, this card says target attack gets -2 power. So that's pretty good. A 0-cost 5-block D-React that pitches for 2. From what I've been told, pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. So yeah, Saving Grace, powerful card. So I got the defensive package to basically say, hey, Boltyn Blade, Valiant Thrusts, the Spirit of War, Beckoning Light, those kind of cards. I don't really want them in the deck. Well, you can just switch out the Soul Shields, or switch them out for the Soul Shields, the Saving Graces, and the Sink Belows. But you also might be thinking, Final Spring Tunic. This is the best chess piece that this deck can be running, unfortunately, because, yeah, Final Spring Tunic is a very powerful card, but if you were to put it into the main deck, it would over double the price of the deck, so that's unfortunate. But if you were to put Tunic in the deck and make this a fully tuned Boltyn list, how would you do it? Basically, cut 1 Sink Below. Yes, I know, I love Sink Below too, but cut 1 Sink Below, move the Soul Bond Resolve into the inventory in that 1 copy of the Sink Below in its spot, and then put it in a Final Spring Tunic in the main board's place, in the main board Soul Bond Resolve's place. But that's it. That's the deck. Is it good? I think it could be. I honestly think it could be, because this whole little Nimby package from High Seas with the Nimbleisms that are really good in this deck, giving pretty much anything that you want, power greater than its base, making the Jack be Nimble, Jack be Quick, 0 for 4s go again, that don't really have to do any shenaniganry with the deck. I don't know. There's like a lot of really good things that came out of High Seas for this deck. I think it makes it more consistent. I think it makes it more efficient. I think it makes it a little bit more card efficient, not forcing you to play 3 cards in your hand to come in for 7 damage. That sucks. Or 2 cards to come in for 4 damage. That also sucks. But yeah. With all that aside, hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free, you won't regret it. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Enjoy.